sorry for the delay. There's some technical issue there. Okay, we can just quickly start with this session. So this is a startup session. So mostly introduction that we are going to do here. We can quickly go on to the agenda for this session. We can go on to the next slide. Okay. So this is the agenda for this session. We will go through the course preview, what all we will be covering through other modules as well. Then introduction to Python, its usability, applications, then installation, getting you started with the application so that you can quickly get onto it and start coding yourself. Then we will be touching few basic building blocks of Python so that you can try out code by yourself, and it would be basically basic building blocks, and we will see some examples as well. So we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is the module 1, that is introduction for the installation, and we'll cover how can we install this Python on different OS, whether it is Macintosh, UNIX machines or Windows machines. Then we'll starting from basic elements, data types, what all is present, variables, integers, how it is going, we'll be pacing ourselves. After we learn the building blocks, then next step would be to do some more work like control statements, if and else, iterators, looping, logical stuffs will go. And once we complete 4 modules, we will have an application as well, so that we don't run into things and just we don't run things up. So we will revise these first 4 in the module as well. Then functions, collections, there is a very rich source built-in support for data structures, I would say, and like lists, tuples, maps, sets, these are all data structures, how we are going to do this. Then any other like any other language, Python supports OOPs. It supports both structured as well as object-oriented styles, so we will touch base on that. Then sharing your code is very important. The main what makes Python more powerful is the ability to share things across platforms. So it's a cross-platform language. It works on different OS, and this makes sharing, and it's a very easy way of sharing code via modules. Then we look into file operations, so as to say reading, writing, and having we'll have some persistent data there, so we'll go into these details. Then exception handling it has support for that as well, so we'll look into this. Then we have an automation framework, robot framework. This is an interesting one. We'll be writing some test cases for automating the things. Okay, so we'll start with the introduction now. So Python is an open source language, that it is free to use. You can build your commercial applications and you don't have to pay any license fee. This is an object oriented and high level language, and it is an interpreted language. That is, we can write a code and we can directly feed it to the interpreter. The main libraries are, it is implemented in the C. So the interpreter is written in C. Everything modules are in C. So whatever you write, it's converted. It is interpreted by C. So the base of Python is C. Like I already said, it is a cross-platform, so it works across different OS. It works on web as well as on your PC. So, like if I give you an example of Java, Java has different technologies for desktop, for web. Similarly, Python also supports for desktop-based application. It is integrated with GTK. other Qt framework is there for desktop based application. For web based application, we have Django and other frameworks as well. Flask, there are very lightweight frameworks that are there, so they are completely implemented in Python and they support. The statements are supported, indented. Grouping is done by indentation. This means that like in C++, we have to finish the command with semicolon, end with semicolon. Here there is no such mess we need to cater. Here it's all about how we are writing the code. So there is standard procedure that is being followed. Like it's a rule, a tab space, but that is required if you are grouping the statements. So we will touch base in this. Now you see here the latest version. So we have two branches of Python currently operational. The latest one is 3.4x and the earlier one was 2.7x. In earlier versions, I mean the 2.7 is currently vastly used because of the APIs and the libraries are mostly available, are developed using 2.7x. But the rapid development is going on into 3.4x. So the major problem in adopting 3 is the back portability. The applications, there are some features that are not backported. So the application written in 2.7, some application won't work on 3.40. So this is some problem that is being looked into by the team of developers. So Python is open source project. It is totally controlled by open source community. So this is being taken care. So yeah, then there is a very good support of integrating this language to other languages like C, C++, and Java, and also .NET. There are majorly 3 implementations that are currently working. The Cpython is the normal Python or the vastly used Python. It is the fastest one. Then we have Iron Python. This is .NET framework based, so we can get we can access the .NET libraries using Iron Python. So the third one is Jython, or we say Jython. This is basically a Java implementation, so it works on JVM, and you can access Java libraries using this. Okay, so so we can look into the installation first. So like I said, for Unix-based system, Python mostly they are bundled with the Python. So if you don't have the Python on your system, you can just simply go to the python.org, download source. So you need to download the source and you need to compile it. This is a C course, C code totally, and you need to run these 3 commands: unzip the code, configure, make, and make install. Configure command basically gets your system environment details and sets the parameters. It compiles and it sets the things. Make install, like it will install the directory path and put the things in place. So once you install it, you can find the binaries under the usual path is usr bin Python or Python 3.x, whatever version you have downloaded, it will come up. If you want to know the installation path, you can do which space Python. It will give you the path. Okay, or you can also use where is command, where is space Python. It will give you the installation directly listed with this. Okay, so yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so for window-based system, it is pretty much basic one. You need to download an executable file. This is totally wizard-based system. So once you start download this exe, it will ask you if you want to install it for all users, or you want to install it for a particular admin. So I would suggest you install it for all the users and then move on to the next option. Then it is very simple, you can just get in there. One problem that you can face is the environment variable might not be set, and so you need to set it manually. So I have mentioned the way how to mention the environment variable. So I think you must be aware, if the path for the Python is not in the environment, so you will not be able to execute the binary. If you type in Python, it will not give you, it will give you command not found error. So either you'll have to give the complete exe path, the executable path, or you need to add this thing into your environment variable. So I would suggest you add, if it's not available, you add it in your environment variables. Okay, we can move to the next slide. For the Mac system, it is also pre-built, it is installed, so they are also porting it by default. So the system path, I have mentioned it, where you can find the variable, the Python libraries, and different versions are these are pre-built in. Also, for your information, there are many installers that are based on Python. So in UNIX, there are many installers that are based on Python natively. So yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so we have come to the basic building blocks, that are data types. One thing to note here is, like in C++ or Java, you have to explicitly mention, like, int a is equal to some value. You have to tell the system that I'm going to use this integer variable. In Python, what happens is the declaration part is same. I mean, if you're using a equals to 2 and you're using a equals to, let's say, ABC. So at the runtime, when you are using or you are applying some logic onto it, at that time the interpolation would happen. I mean, then at that time it will make sense. I mean, what it is. If you are applying, you are adding, or you're subtracting, so the compiler will automatically understand that this is a numerical value and need to take care of as a numerical one. And if you are doing an operation, arithmetic operation, and it is a string value, it will give you a typo error. Okay, so these are basic data types here: integers, long int, float point, boolean, again true and false. The new one here you can see is complex number. So yes, they have support for complex number by default. So it's I plus j, you can give it plus j. The imaginary part is with the j, so you can get that as well. Then strings, list, tuples. List, tuples, these are basically your grouping of things. List is an order sequence of values. Tuples is order immutable. So the difference here is the tuples, if you try to do some alteration to this, it will try to create a new memory location. So these are basically immutable values, so you cannot do some changes here. Dictionaries, again, if you have heard of hashes, so it's the key value pair. We basically store key values in this format, and this is pretty much very useful these days. One note I have mentioned here is Unicode 16-bit. So if you are heard, some of you have worked on security hardening or some security related issues. There have been some threats that have been detected due to the character encoding stuff. I mean, I'm writing some words and they are interpreted in something else in different character codings. So Python takes care of it. I mean, whatever code you write, it treats it as a Unicode, so it is a standard. So there is no problem in interpolating. I mean, whatever you write, it will treat it as a Unicode system. Okay, so it is a standardization, and it is a bit safe as well. Okay, and one correction here, if you see integer length, it is minus 2 raised to the power, it is 2 raised to the power 32. Okay, minus 2 to 2 raised to the power 32. So it is, the caret sign is actually raised to the power. Okay, so yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so a few guidelines for writing a program. Like for giving these single line comments, we can use hash. We have a concept of doing multiple line comments and multiple line prints as well. So that is represented by triple quotes. So you can use single, triple, single quotes, or triple, double quotes. So whatever you write, you can go on to write in multiple lines, and it will not give you an error. Okay. Now, if you see the second point, printing. Okay, so this is simple print, how you printing a string. You can see how you are getting an integer. Then I would like you to look at fifth statement. Okay, so this is string, how we are doing the substituting the value for an iterator. Okay, so this is one. Then we have concatenation. So if we are concatenating two strings, we can use plus sign. If we are using different values with string, we can use substitution method. Okay, the last example you see, print first value is ampersand d, and second value is ampersand of f comma s. Okay, so ampersand d is basically I'm filling in gap with the digit. So ampersand d basically tells that I'm going to substitute a digit at this place, and again for second also I'm saying that I'm going to I'm going to substitute a digit. When I'm doing the substitution, I need to keep in mind the order. So if I have more than one substitution here, I can use character, I can use octal word as well. So I need to keep the order in. I need to keep mind the order. So this will work based on the order. The last statement that you see, the percentage sign f comma s. So this is basically substituting f for the first value and s for the second value. Okay. Now I have mentioned how we can do the substitution for other things as well. So these are the shortcodes you can use. Have percent s for the string, percentage e for the exponential, percentage f for floating point, percentage o for octal, we said, and percentage x for the hexadecimal, and so on. So this is very useful. Now can we move on to the next slide? A variable that you try and store in the literal will define what type of value it is containing, and size will be allocated accordingly. Okay, in the memory the size will be allocated when you are assigning the values, not before that. So I am doing here again same thing I'm doing here. A plus b, it is not I'm adding two strings, it is I'm concatenating two strings. So again, if I do that, I can either print C, I can substitute C, or I can do A plus B. So this is the concatenation sign. So with this example, I just wanted to tell you that the interpolation happens at the time of assigning the value. Okay, so can we open the Fibonacci series program, please? Okay. Here in this program we have used multiple concepts. One is the concept of functions. Okay, so function, you can define a function using keyword def. If I can give you, there are about 30 keywords in Python that you cannot use as an identifiers. Okay, so def is one of them for defining a function. Okay, so def Fibonacci parenthesis n. So n is basically I'm passing a value here to this function. Okay, then we can come to the third line for I in range 0 comma n. Okay, this is basically a syntax for loop. Python supports multiple ways of writing for loop. You can do basic C++ loop as well. It will work for I equals to 0 semicolon, then that increment or decrement, and that will also work. And this is how this is basically syntax can give you for I in range 0 to n. Range is an to generate my iteration. So what it will do is it will generate the numbers from 0 to n minus 1. So if I'm generating 0 to, let's say, 10, so it will generate digits. It will generate a list for me from 0 to 9. Okay, it will not include 10. So now this is a basic program where I'm running I'm iterating here, just swapping the values and returning one that is greater for the Fibonacci series. The execution starts from the last line where the print code is written. Print Fibonacci. I can come down. Okay. So what happens is I'm trying to print 15 numbers, first 15 numbers of Fibonacci series. Okay, so for C in range 0 to 15, what it will do is it will substitute the value into C starting 0 till 14. So first it will give 0, it will pass on the value Fibonacci 0. Okay, then till 14. Yes, so this is being called, now I'm calling a function here. So it will hop up to the function, and above my code would be written. Okay, the series, it will call the Fibonacci function and it will generate the Fibonacci series depending upon this. So now if you see, I haven't used any semicolons here. There are no brackets here. You can see only colons. Colon is basically when you are giving loop statements. I mean, like if you are using while, do while, you will be giving the colon. But how do I establish a link? Which all statements are for this for loop? So if you see, the print statement is little bit towards there is a gap between the spaces. There is a space gap. Okay, so this is basically tells the interpreter that these all statements are going to be executed. These all statements belong to this block. Similarly, if you go up, can we go up? Like see, I've given the define function. I'm giving the function. Okay, so similarly, I have written the elements, the block elements. They are in the same. The indentation is based on that. So the only way here is to, if I want to tell the interpreter which blocks are belonging to the which I mean blocking, if I have to identify, it is only being done by the indentation, how I'm writing the code. So what is the benefit of writing like this is the code looks cleaner. Okay, second, searching, and you are searching the open and curly braces, that pain is taken off. Okay, so your code looks cleaner, and yeah, it is written. The thumb rule in Python is be explicit. Okay, rather than working in inbuilt, the thumb rule here is be explicit. By explicit means whatever you are going to be you are going to use, define that before. Okay, it should, you should be able to open it. I mean, you should be able to view that stuff. Uh, there are few magic methods, like we say, that we just define them, and there is working that happens from backgrounds. You just need to type in. You just need to mention that command, and things happen from the backend. It happens commonly in Rails. Okay, Ruby on Rails. That is one place where more convention. The convention is on implicit things, not on explicit. So Python is basically explicit. You define what you want to use. So this was the Hello World program. Okay, I'll just want to put your focus on the first line. This line basically is when I was running on Unix systems. So this is basically for Unix system. I don't know the exact path for the binary, for Python binary. Okay, so I'm calling the env environment and passing the Python. So this command will basically arrange the path variables for running the Python. Okay, so generally, if there are multiple Python in Unix, there are basically two Pythons that are installed. 2.7 is also bundled, 3.x is also bundled, but I don't know which one is the default one. So when I'm doing this command, it points the Python interpreter to the default Python. Okay, so this is a point that you can note if you're using a Unix system. Yep. So I wanted to show you more via coding, and I wanted this be a very interactive session. But today, a little bit we are tool, but
Arkanwal, are you able to hear me? Like there are many programming languages like C language, C++, Java, and other like .NET. Why a student should go for a Python training? What is more in that, and why students should elect this training actually?
okay. Uh, I would, if I from the industry point of view, if I say if you check the implementation that are happening, the latest trends are big data and cloud computing. Okay, so the largest or I mean the best, if I say open source software, is OpenStack, that is being running, and that is mostly written in Python. Okay, so first is that. Okay, so we are with the industry. You will be there. What is the current trend? Then we have big data and stuff. So this again, there Python for few is very favorite there because of the libraries, the modules that it supports, and second, the cross-platform. I mean, the cross-platform support for Python is immense. I mean, people prefer Python as compared to Java because of the it is not bulkier. If I say the development, the learning curve, if I say, is very less as compared to Java or any other language there. C++, I mean, you can use C++ in Python. I mean, there are APIs which you can directly implement here using the Python. So it basically gels into, I mean, each stream. I mean, whether it is a web, if you want to, you are a web developer, there is a very good scope there as well. You have Django and very lightweight frameworks that are working. And if you are a desktop developer, there are various kits. If I can give you example, one of the installers or the Red Hat is using it, it is based on Python. Okay, so without Python, the system cannot work. Similarly, for Ubuntu, many flavors. I mean, they also have many binaries that are written in Python. So Python is here to stay, and the application, the overall package, it is very good. I mean, it is. I mean, one must learn this because I give you an example. The libraries that are ported, I mean, you can access